Quantum leaders, the architect, the preconscious flow of reality. The architect's natural style, systematic, reflective, and intellectually rigorous, seems rooted in deliberate logic and long-range planning. Yet in the quantum view of the preconscious, we discover a deeper layer of their intelligence. Much of their most precise design sense arises from subtle knowing before the reasoning mind can explain it. Their strongest architectural instincts about what will break, where the pressure is forming, or what structural change is needed often arrive as a faint nudge, a quiet discomfort, or a soft internal ping. The architect's genius isn't purely conceptual, it is preconceptual. Their leadership matures when they learn to trust and listen to what they sense before they can prove it. With a motivation direction of away from, the architect is attuned to what could go wrong. But the first signals of system stress often come through atmosphere, tone, or a subtle breakdown in flow, not through obvious red flags. A meeting that suddenly feels off, a tool that functions but no longer feels aligned, a stakeholder who says yes but doesn't integrate. These are preconscious alerts. The architect evolves when they pause to investigate the signal before the breakdown arrives. Their attention focus on self helps them maintain internal clarity. But some of their most valuable intelligence lives beneath the level of conscious thought. An uneasiness about a timeline, a hesitation to approve a proposal. These aren't inefficiencies, they are the early whispers of system logic. When the architect honors these felt interruptions as valid data, they begin designing ahead of disruption. With an internal frame of reference, they trust their own mind. But logic is often the tail end of awareness. The preconscious doesn't speak in linear frameworks. It offers pattern sense. When the architect slows down, allowing a problem to sit in their field, they often find that a solution rises fully formed before the mind has mapped it. Their clearest innovations come not from speed, but from inner spaciousness. Their procedural operational style favors precise sequencing. But just as important as what step comes next is when a step doesn't feel right yet. That quiet sense, we're missing something, may not be explainable yet, but it is highly accurate. The architect sharpens when they create space in the procedure for internal audit. Does this still feel aligned? Does this step want to shift? Preconscious input becomes a structural safety net. Their specific viewpoint gives them comfort in granular control. But the preconscious often speaks between the details, a pause before approving a diagram. A slight emotional tone in a user's voice during feedback. These aren't random, they are systemic signals. When the architect tunes to the in-between data, they build systems that feel elegantly preemptive. With a solo work preference, they often process internally. This solitude creates ideal conditions for preconscious flow. Insights surface while walking, showering, journaling, or staring at a whiteboard. The key is not chasing the insight, but making space for it to land. When the architect respects nonlinear time, they stop forcing the solution and start catching the design already forming. Their emotional engagement is dissociated. They often downplay emotion to preserve objectivity. But preconscious insight often arrives through emotion. A low-level frustration may be the signal that a process is misaligned. A quiet sense of inspiration may be pointing to a structure that wants to exist. When they learn to use emotion as a signal, not a story, they reintegrate their sensing into their planning. As matchers, they look for what works, but what's emerging often has no precedent. Preconscious flow carries innovation that isn't fully formed, something that feels right even if it hasn't been done before. The architect evolves when they create space in their methodology for intuition-led prototyping. Their frameworks become early channels for the future to express itself. Their through-time orientation allows structured vision, but preconscious knowing is nonlinear. A hunch may arrive too early. A resistance to a phase may signal a timing misalignment. When the architect listens to the body's signal, not just the calendar, they stop pushing timelines and start aligning them. Their planning shifts from rigid foresight to living responsiveness. And with a primary drive of things, they are drawn to produce. But what they produce often arises from a moment of interior silence, the breath before the breakthrough. The best structures come not from effort, but from a state of deep inner receptivity. When the architect allows their systems to arrive through them, not just from them, they build the exact shapes the future is asking for. In this lens, the architects stop seeing their work as purely cognitive or methodical. They realize their greatest designs begin before the thinking begins. Their body is an antenna. Their intuition is a preverbal modeler. And when they stop ignoring these signals, when they pair precision with preconscious sensing, they become more than systems thinkers. They become builders of what was already waiting to emerge. Quantum leaders, the architect. You are the tipping point. The architect's natural style, reserved, plan-driven, and oriented toward structural coherence, often places them in the background. The strategist behind the scenes, the one ensuring systems hold. But through the final quantum principle, you are the tipping point, a deeper truth emerges. It is often the architect's single decision, quiet correction, or structural pivot that turns an entire system toward stability, innovation, or resolution. They do not lead through charisma or visibility. They lead by precision-timed recalibration. Their presence, often underestimated, becomes the axis on which transformation turns. With a motivation direction of away from, the architect designs to avert failure. Their early interventions, adjusting an unseen flaw, reordering a process, restructuring a policy, are rarely dramatic, but they prevent collapse before anyone else notices the fault line. This ability to correct in silence is not marginal, it is decisive. The architect tips systems into clarity by aligning what no one else is tracking. Their attention focus on self gives them composure and consistency. While others panic, the architect maintains order. Their calm in complexity becomes an energetic stabilizer. In group environments, they may not speak often, but when they do, people shift. Their suggestion, model, or pause reframes the moment. Their neutrality becomes magnetic equilibrium. With an internal frame of reference, they trust their inner logic. And when things are unclear or unstable, that logic becomes the first firm foothold for others. The architect's structured clarity serves as a point of orientation. Their frameworks become the architecture others move within. When they name a sequence, redefine a goal, or pause a runaway plan, they change the entire direction, quietly and completely. Their procedural operational style is their power move. They know where the glitch is and how to fix it. But their gift isn't in building big, it's in making the right small move at the right time. Changing step 4 in a 10-step sequence. Renaming a category to align with future scaling. Updating a policy before it becomes obsolete. These shifts are seemingly minor, but they pivot the future trajectory. Their specific viewpoint makes them see what others miss. They track details that seem trivial until the system breaks or succeeds because of them. They are the tipping point between refinement and failure. When they act on what they see, no matter how granular, it can recode the entire field. With a solo work preference, they don't always ask permission, but their independent action, taken from integrity, often breaks inertia, a quiet prototype, a restructured plan, a solution no one requested but everyone needed. When the architect moves, systems follow. Their agency becomes the unspoken moment where movement begins. Their emotional engagement is dissociated, but this gives them clarity in chaos. While others are reactive, the architect decides. Their detachment allows clean choices. They cut cords, implement shifts, or restructure timelines, while others are still tangled in emotion. Their decisiveness becomes the catalyst for coherence. As matchers, they replicate what works, but they also know exactly when to update the template. When they subtly pivot from the familiar, because the context has changed, they shift the system without drama. Their update becomes the standard. Their quiet deviation becomes the point of collective adaptation. Their through-time orientation lets them design for eventualities. But the tipping point lives in one moment, now. There's a moment when a system must be paused, when a tool must be implemented, when a decision must land. The architect senses that moment, not emotionally, but structurally. When they choose to act on it, the system pivots, not because it's inspired, but because it's finally aligned. And with a primary drive of things, they focus on outputs. But what they deliver isn't just a thing, it's a threshold artifact. A finished flowchart that realigns the team, a document that reframes the roadmap, a slide that shifts the conversation. The architect's deliverables don't just complete tasks, they change direction. In this final principle, the architect ceases to be the quiet one in the corner, the analyst behind the curtain. They recognize, my insight is the hinge, my presence is the axis. They no longer wait to be asked or over-explain their clarity. They step in at the moment it matters and design the pivot itself. The tipping point doesn't require force, it requires exactness. And that is what the architect has always carried, not as disruption, not as drama, but as elegant, unshakable shift.